My name is Robert Baines. I am the President and CEO of the NATO Association of Canada. We're a charitable organization devoted to Canadians, informing them that NATO is amazing, security is valuable, and that this is something that you should all be aware of. It's not something that most Canadians think about on a day-to-day basis, and that's a great thing, but it's also a challenge. It's a challenge to make sure that we are continually considering these issues, and that security just doesn't happen. It doesn't waft out of the Canadian shield. It's something that has to be worked at. And NATO particularly is an important part of our conversation here because it's a very simple idea that an attack upon one is an attack upon all. It's something we've been dedicated since 1949. Canada was a founder of the organization, and it has shown its proof through the defense and security it's provided since that time for Canada and for so many other nations now. Today, we're going to be talking about the Canadian-Lithuanian bilateral connection and how that has flourished and what we are doing together and as part of the NATO alliance. I'm really thrilled to be having this conversation. And if you are joining us now for the first time, I would recommend that you follow us on various social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and of course, please do subscribe to us on YouTube as well. But let's get to this discussion. And I'm really pleased to be able to introduce two of our outstanding research analysts at the NATO Association. They're part of our team that make everything happen, and that's Nicole Darty and Adwet Sharma. Nicole, Adwet, please take us away.
Thank you, Robert. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our series of events discussing the future of North Atlantic cooperation. As Robert mentioned, my name is Nicole Darty, and I'm a research analyst at the NATO Association.
And my name is Adwet Sharma. I'm also a research analyst and ambassador coordinator here at the NATO Association of Canada. Particularly in these trying times, it is more important than ever to promote international cooperation, and that is what we aim to do today with the discussion that we have.
We are honored to be joined today by His Excellency Darius Skusevičius, Ambassador of Lithuania to Canada. Thank you for joining us, Ambassador. His Excellency became the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Republic of Lithuania to Canada in 2019. Prior to his appointment, he held various positions such as the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Lithuania from 2015 to 2017, and Director, National Agency for Youth and Students from 2006 to 2008. The ambassador holds a bachelor degree in software systems from Vilnius University, a bachelor's degree in business management and administration from the University of Management and Economics, and a master's degree from the Institute of International Relations and Political Science at Vilnius University. Now, without further delay, Ambassador, we invite you to begin with some opening remarks.
Okay, Nicole, thank you, and Robert, Adwet. Thanks to all of you for inviting me to join this interesting, hopefully, event. I'm not sure if people can see me. Okay, so really happy to be here with you, and I would like to start, because what I've noticed since my arrival here to Canada at the end of 2019 that we have to begin from the basics. So Lithuania is a country in Europe. First time name of Lithuania was mentioned, it was more than 1,000 years ago. Since then, we fought different fights. We were bigger or smaller. At one period of our history, Lithuania was from Baltic Sea to the Black Sea, so almost across all of Europe. But now we are a relatively small country at the Baltic Sea. Our neighbors, most probably more known to your audience, is Latvia, where Canada have its forces as part of enhanced forward presence. Poland, Belarus, and Russian enclave. So neighborhood is not the easiest one, and last 100 years of our history was not easy. We declared our independence in 1918, and after that, with all the wars, we were occupied for almost 50 years. 50 years by Soviets, and regained our independence only in the 90s. But I'm proud to say that Lithuania was one of the flagmans of the freedom fight. Even during our occupation, we had forest brothers who were fighting, with the Soviets, were hiding in the forest, and that was quite a big movement of resistance. And Baltic countries, I want to share one photo with you now. Baltic countries, that was actually beginning of our way to independence. In 1989, 3 Baltic countries, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, gathered into a human chain, so-called Baltic Way. 2 million people were standing there. Unimaginable, unbelievable. Just think about it. No mobile phones, no internet, and everything was really well coordinated. That was a demonstration against the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, which was signed exactly 50 years ago at that time, and divided Europe and led to our occupation. But yeah, at 89 we had Baltic Way. In 90s we declared our independence. In 91 Soviet troops tried to take over our TV tower. On January 13th, they tried to take TV tower, Parliament building, national television. But again, unarmed civilians were protecting the country and its freedom, and having thanks God only, but still 14 victims, 14 people died at that time, but thousands were gathered and protected main buildings by their bodies. Now I'm going a little bit to Canada. Canada was the first country to re-establish diplomatic relations with all 3 Baltic countries exactly 30 years ago in September. We are really proud and happy. Additional fact for you to know that Canada, same as United States of America, never recognized forceful incorporation of Lithuania and other Baltics into Soviet Union. What did it mean for us? It means that we were able to have a government in exile, foreign minister in exile, and we had honorary consuls, at that time consul generals in Canada, functioning for almost all the period of our occupation, without any interruptions. Starting from 50s and continuing till those days. So Canada really was a friendly country for all the Baltics, and I think therefore we saw a big waves of immigration into Canada by the Balts, and currently there are 60,000 Lithuanians living in Canada. Most of them populated in Toronto, but also a lot of them in Montreal, in Edmonton and Calgary, in Vancouver, in GTA. In almost every bigger city you can find Lithuanians, and our community. London, Delhi, Hamilton, Wasaga Beach, etc., etc. So really proud that we have a vibrant community which was accepted at that difficult time when they were running as refugees to create their future somewhere in a safe place. So maybe I'll stop here, and let's proceed to the questions, and then I will be able to comment much more.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your wonderful opening remarks. We will now, as you just said, we will now move on to the moderator discussion, as you've laid the groundwork for the questions before us. And after that, we will be opening the floor to questions from our live audience. I do encourage our live viewers to put chat, and we will try to get as many of them to the ambassador as possible. With that, we have the first question here for you, sir. So this year marked the 30th anniversary of the re-establishment of diplomatic relations between Canada and the Republic of Lithuania. The last 3 decades have been characterized by close relations forged by shared values and economic ties between the two countries, as you've just mentioned. Would there be anything you would like to sort of add in defining this bilateral bond, Ambassador?
Definitely. Thank you. And yes, 30 years, and we can, you know, that's a moment to look back and to project next steps in our cooperation. You know, since those 30 plus years of our restored independence, since the very first moment, Lithuania clearly stated that we want to move into European and into transatlantic structures. And maybe at that time it sounded even crazy how country which just escaped the Soviets can be even thinking about becoming a member of those clubs. Even some influential countries were telling us, no, forget it. Like, you will never become members of NATO, or EU integration will be very difficult. But you know, if we want something, we put all our effort to achieve it. And in 2004, with great support, actually, since the very beginning, we had big support from Canada. For example, at that time, Prime Minister of Ontario, Bob Rae, current ambassador to UN, he was sending experts to Baltic states to help us with different kind of reforms. Canada was sending numbers of delegations to support our reform process. And in 2004, Lithuania, same as other Baltic countries, we became members of EU and NATO. And that's the reason, you know, that's the answer. What happens if you are persistent, if you have clear goals and you want to achieve it. So for us as a freedom fighters, starting, you know, from all the Forest Brothers movements, with all the human chains, with non-violent, you know, singing revolution, etc., 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 we still see and feel that Europe still is not whole and free. And with what is happening in a recent decade, it's unimaginable for a normal person, I would say, when one of the countries in the world takes a pencil and is just, you know, redrawing borders of sovereign independent countries. In 2008, it was Georgia, when 20% of the country was occupied and is still occupied by Russians. In 2014, Crimea, illegal annexation of Crimea Peninsula, which belongs to Ukraine and is part of Ukraine, and an still ongoing war in eastern part of the country, which is you know, clearly Russian interference and caused by Russia, and is still ongoing. Now what we see with Belarus. Why I'm mentioning all those examples? Because Canada was always supporter of multilateralism, of global, liberal, democratic world order, and was always vocal on different kind of conflicts and challenges in different parts of the world. So Canada, being very vocal since very beginning of the war in Ukraine caused by Russia, that was one of the bridging points also for us to start working closer. For example, Lithuania and Canada, okay, Canada is naturally understandable, but Lithuania is also in the club of Quint, so-called 5 countries working in Ukraine on defense reforms and support for security and defense of that country. So that's naturally one of the points of interest. Canada is very vocal about processes which are happening in Belarus, with Belarus civil society, with illegal elections, with all the calls, for ICAO, with civil aviation crisis, etc., etc. So there are, unfortunately, I would be happy to say that there are only bright things we share and work on with Canada, but there are lots of challenges. We are working together, and Lithuania being on the border of all those happenings, being eastern flank of NATO, being eastern, external border of European Union. Lithuania naturally has a lot of expertise in this area, and in the recent years, Lithuania even became we call it democracy hub, because if we would look on what is happening with civil society in Russia, they are not allowed to properly operate from their homeland. Therefore, they are running abroad. One of the locations where many activists, journalists, even operators of political movements are settling in is Vilnius. When crisis in Belarus happened with, again, illegal elections of Lukashenko again, for the nth time in a row, where all the civil activists are operating from, where all the meetings are happening, and now with non-recognition of the ambassadors, even foreign embassies are starting to operate to Belarus from Vilnius. And naturally, this brings much more attention to us as the country. It creates visibility and also new interests of interaction of Canadians. I'm really happy that since 2019, with almost, we had, I would say, we could count on one or maximum 2 hands number of official visits or high-level visits to each other's countries. In the last 30 years, in the last first 25 years, we had 2, maybe 3 ministerial meetings from Canada to Lithuania. In recent 2 years, we had 2 visits of Canadian Minister of Foreign Affairs to Lithuania. We had Governor General coming in the end of 2019 to visit Lithuania. We saw Lithuanian Foreign Minister in Canada last February, and just recently, again, we saw Lithuanian Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs in Canada at the beginning of this month. So naturally, and this is as a snowfall, when it rolls, it becomes bigger and bigger, and those human contacts, they create new topics for discussions and new interactions, and especially now with VTCs, for me, it would be even difficult to count how many interactions between different kind of politicians, be it parliament, be it ministerial level, with Canadians we had in those year and a half of a lockdown. So that's a little bit to add to your story about 30 years, and we are really looking forward into next 30 years of our cooperation, because naturally there are more and more interests. Lithuania, becoming member and expert in certain areas, has bigger and bigger voice in different international organizations. Lithuania, recently had a presidency in 2013, presidency of European Union. Then we were members of Security Council of United Nations for 2 years with several presidencies in that period of time. Now we became members of UNESCO Executive Council. Now we are working much more actively in ICAO. Recently became members of OECD. So more and more for us to work together. One example I just recently heard from New York that, for example, Ambassador Bob Ray is very, very closely working with Europeans, but especially with the Baltics. With the Baltics on very variety of different matters, because we have the same values, we understand the world in the same manner, and we understand that without international rules, which are clearly set and fully followed by all those who subscribe to those rules, we are going nowhere. Canada is a flagman in this regard, and you know, we are a relatively young, restored country. We are followers of Canadian U.S. lead in many endeavors, but we are, you know, we are proud members of European Union. We are proud members and contributors to NATO. We see what is happening around us, and we understand that together we can address those issues.
Thank you, Ambassador, for that wonderful answer. I think it really illuminated the strong diplomatic history of our two countries and the strong friendship and cooperation that we have. Speaking of these relations, our countries enjoy a significant economic relationship. In 2018, we saw $316.6 million of bilateral merchandise trade. How would you describe the impact of COVID-19 on our trade relations? And what do you think can be done in the future to better manage such shocks?
Yeah, Nicole, thank you for the question. Just to correct you a little bit, for you or me personally, 300 millions would be a very big amount. But for trade between countries, it's not a very high number. And really, economic diplomacy is one of the areas we are really working hard at the embassy now to boost it somehow. But as in any other relations, you know, we perfectly understand and know that from our own experience that when everything is good, you look only at your neighbors because it's the easiest way to do business. For Canada, it's naturally US. For us, it's naturally, you know, countries in our region, be it Belarus, be it Russia, be it other Baltic countries, be it Poland or Germany, be it Scandinavians on the other side of the Baltic Sea. And in the normal circumstances, you think, okay, let it flow. But nowadays, every thinking country understands that you have to diversify, and therefore we really happy to be one among the countries which already ratified EU-Canadian trade agreement, so-called CETA. Numbers are relatively low, and I think we have to put much more effort. And in my understanding, COVID, with all the very negative consequences, had also positive sides, because businessmen are rational people, and everybody these days, time is most valuable currency we have. Therefore, you know, just to go to exhibition, be it food exhibition, even the greatest one in North America, or fintech expo, you know, best in the Baltics or best in North America, just to go, it's an expensive thing to do. So what COVID created, it created a new normal with VTCs, which we all hate now, but it created new opportunities. And the embassy, we had number of, and our trade consists of very traditional industries. Things we are exporting to Canada is wood, furniture, food products, other equipment, etc. But these are traditional industries where we see much more opportunities for the time being is those innovative sectors where we, maybe it will sound as a surprise for you or for Canadian audience, but Lithuania is really well known for many of the industries now, specifically for our startup ecosystem, for our fintech industry. For example, we are number 1 in European Union by licenses issued to fintech companies. And we are members of EU, we are members of Schengen, we are members of Eurozone, which means that once you establish in a very competitive environment with flexible governance, as Lithuania is, flexible regulatory environment, you can operate in all the European Union without any restrictions. Same goes with life sciences. And why I'm mentioning those areas is because Canada is also very well known, especially in North America, for life sciences and fintech. Toronto, Montreal, Quebec City, Vancouver, other cities being in top charts on different aspects of those industries. So what we started to do with VTC is we started connecting, and we already have some of the results. Life sciences of Canada as a sector was first time presented in virtual event in September. Toronto Finance International, president of that organization, participated in fintech conference, and I think more and more things are going to happen. So, but everything starts, as from the small snowball, which becomes a bigger one, and we are ready to roll it.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your extensive comments therein, and sort of how you especially mentioned about sort of the regions and the importance of the region surrounding you, but also sort of the international partnerships that you talked about. On that front, speaking of sort of regions and sort of energy efficiency, which is vital to trade and really everything, in an effort to support the improvement of this very energy efficiency in the operational environment and reduce dependency on energy supply chains, Canada has proudly contributed $1 million to the NATO Energy Security Center of Excellence based in Vilnius in Lithuania. What do you think, Ambassador? Can Canada and Lithuania do more to further improve energy efficiency and reduce dependency on energy supply chains?
Yeah, thank you. Excellent question. Before this position, I was a vice minister, and one of my responsibilities was I was a chairman of a steering committee of NATO Energy Security Center of Excellence. So I perfectly know how that institution operates. And it's a little bit different because it's NATO. It's anyway connected a lot with military application of energy efficiency, which is quite complicated topic. But yes, Canada contributed with voluntary contribution, and the thing which was bought for the money contributed was some specific equipment for military application to produce energy in the environments where electricity is not accessible. So-called portable equipment to generate energy, which was used in a number of different operations across the globe, be it NATO, be it some NATO member state led operations and training camps. But this was really very important, meaningful, and still used, we are still using the consequence of this contribution. NATO is contributing, of course, a lot with its troops and military personnel to different kind of structures, and one of the structures is NATO force integration units, where Canada also has troops in Lithuania, only several, but the presence. And when we talk about collective defense, deterrence is a very important word here, because NATO is not the offensive alliance. NATO is an alliance meant to defend its member states from the existing threats, and what we see now in our region, with, as I mentioned, with Ukraine, is the only mentioning of this country shows us that we are still not in the peaceful region or peaceful surroundings. But with the recent exercise, for example, Russia is conducting every year Zapad 2021, when on our borders, I will maybe show you the map now of NATO. 1 second, I have it somewhere. I will show it to you. And on the borders of NATO, that country, together with Belarus, together with other partners, some years ago, Chinese military ships were training in Baltic Sea. I hope you see the map now. So yeah, so we are those three small pieces on the east northern, and in this map it's more in the center, but it's eastern flank, and right on our borders we have a brighter dot between Lithuania and Poland, which is Kaliningrad area, which is Russia, heavily militarized area in the middle of Europe, so to say. Lithuania and Poland has several hundred kilometers of border called Suwalki Gap, which is the only way for troops to go through from one part of NATO to another by land. On the other side, we have Belarus and Russia. So the environment is really tricky now. And when you are asking what is important is deterrence. What is the best deterrence? Best deterrence is having many flags on the ground. And that's how NATO came up with the idea of enhanced forward presence battalions, which are now functional in all three Baltic countries and Poland, if to talk about our region. And Canadians took the main role in Latvia, our neighboring country. In Lithuania, it's Germany who is in charge of this battalion of troops. So, those contributions, they are really important as a deterrence, as a training facility to better understand each other, because militaries, they follow the command, but they have to understand each other. They have to understand what equipment every country has. How do we stand the usability of that equipment? What kind of intelligence we have? What is interoperability of, when you put 10 countries in one place, are those devices talking to each other, So it is really a very useful exercise. And we as Lithuania and as Baltics are, tremendously grateful to all the NATO members who are contributing, and especially for those flagship countries as Canada is, where I think it's something like 500 Canadian troops on the ground, who who understand now what is happening in our region with disinformation, with cyber attacks, with all those things happening, not from media outlets, but directly. And those troops are changing. So understanding about our part of the world is increasing drastically, in on this side of the ocean. So I think Canada is really doing a great job. And the most important thing is not to make a mistake, as many of you allies did in 2008. When, after some period of time, very short one, Russia still has 20% of Georgia. And after 2008, we got back to, business as usual with Russia in a relatively short time. What happened then? New lesson for us, 2014 and Ukraine. What happened then? We have Belarus with being this common or united. They're working now on agreement with Russia, and in military terms are very much dependent on Russia, causing this illegal migrant crisis in Lithuania, Poland, and Latvia. With numbers we never seen. So what is important is to keep up with our principles, and if some criteria is not met by the country on which we have imposed sanctions or some other measures, not to step back, because they do not understand this language, and continue. Never forget that that our brothers and sisters, friends who decided to go into direction of European Union and NATO, I mean Ukrainians, that they are still in war. They are still in war. And I understand that many different conflicts are happening around the world. I fully understand that China now is maybe for some of the countries even bigger threat than Russia looks to be. But we cannot forget, and we must fight till the very end for our understanding of what is acceptable and what is not, which is driven by international rules and norms. So what we expect from Canada is to continue, not to forget, and to continue contributing, working with us in our region, and supporting freedom-loving and fighting for their freedom countries.
Thank you, Ambassador. What a wonderful response. I just want to build a little bit on your answer about deterrence and NATO's role. As you mentioned, Canada has had a leading role in NATO's enhanced forward presence in Central and Eastern Europe and has deployed troops as part of Operation Reassurance. Canadian Armed Forces also have participated in NATO force integration units in Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. How would you describe this cooperation that aims to ensure collective defense, and how does it demonstrate the strength of the Allied solidarity?
Yeah, I think thank you for this question, and I think that the ongoing mandate of forces of different nations across NATO and their presence in Europe, it is crucially important, because one thing is to I frankly, if that would be my decision, I wouldn't be even thinking about attacking one of the NATO countries, because there were numbers of political, verbal reassurances that if any of the countries will be attacked, it's attacked on all the alliance. And we saw how it worked with post 9/11. We saw how it works in number of different other situations. but deterrence is a key, especially seeing what is happening on our borders. And even though we have to have in mind more and more a hybrid nature of the environment we're operating in, with cyber attacks, with the importance of strategic communication, with energy security issues and challenges, and many others being used as instruments to attack democracies around the world. We have to not forget the traditional doctrine of NATO and real troops training together in joint training operations, in joint presence, and in better working and interoperability with each other. It is crucial, especially now.
Indeed, Ambassador. I think you made a very good case for sort of those intertwined relations and sort of just standing as an allied front for a plethora of issues. I believe with that, we can bring our moderated discussion to a close, and we will now be opening the floor. We will now be taking questions from our live audience. So once again, I encourage our live viewers to enter their questions into the chat. The first question I have here, Ambassador, is to do with Lithuania's support for Svetlana Tsikhanouskaya's Belarusian government in exile. How do you think this support has impacted international relationships in the region?
If you would take democratic part of the region, the evaluation would be 1. If you would take all the region, including where Svetlana is coming from, evaluation most probably would be different. But look, we have to understand, we lived together with our brothers and sisters in one duchy and kingdom, and share even great statesmen of Belarus and Lithuania together. And it's sometimes even difficult to say, is that person, be it writer, politician, thinker, is he Belarusian or is he Lithuanian? That's how we are interrelated to each other. And since the very beginning of our independence, civil society of Belarus had always place in Lithuania, and especially with regime getting stronger and stronger, they had no other options what to do, just to start their operations and meetings with be it even US-led foundations which support democratic changes in Belarus and have different kind of educational training programs, NDI, IRI, Freedom House. They just simply cannot operate from Belarus. All those organizations found their home in the neighboring countries, which is naturally Vilnius, capital of Lithuania, 200 kilometers from Minsk. That's again, it's halfway from Ottawa to Toronto. For Canadians, it's not a distance at all. Be it Warsaw, Poland, be it Czech Republic, and many others. But what Lithuania is known for is that we will never. We had some examples in the past and some mistakes in the past when some of the information was given to the Russian authorities on which activists were pressing. We learned our lesson, and all civil society of Belarus knows that they will never be dropped out by Lithuanian authorities. Lithuania, no matter which political party you would ask, nobody would give Svetlana back or would let Belarusian authorities to threaten her operations from Lithuania. Therefore, I think she naturally chose to operate from Vilnius, and reaction, it's difficult, and I think Western world tried number of times with Belarus to get back to normal after stolen elections. But after stealing the elections from the people again, and seeing what the crowds are doing in the streets, they were protesting every day for more than a year. More and more of them are in jail. Citizens of a country for having different kind of opinion, for conducting peaceful processes in the very heart of Europe, on the border with European Union, they are put in jail, hundreds of them. And this naturally, Western countries, even those who are looking into, this, maybe let's try to talk, they had no arguments to start talking to the regime. And therefore, looking into those human rights violations which happened after the elections, reaction was very strict by European Union, and not only political wording, but also sanctions imposed on the regime by European Union, together with United Kingdom, together with US, and most importantly for this audience, together with Canada, which aligned almost, I think, all sanctioned regimes which are imposed by European Union are also used here in Canada. So and we continue to, we cannot step back. That's the main message. If we told at the beginning that Lukashenko is not legitimate president, we cannot step back, and we cannot start talking after 2 years because nothing is changing. Because he is not becoming legitimate president after 2 years of being illegitimate. And that's the main message from our country, from me personally, from us as the embassy. We have to continue supporting. And civil society, they are really active. They're searching for new ways to operate. Most of them are in our region, be it Lithuania or be it Poland. So naturally, our region gets more and more of the attention for what we're doing.
Thank you, Ambassador. What a wonderful answer. It really gets to the heart of some of the challenges that are going on right now. Just building on some of the other issues that are going on in your own region, tensions have risen in the Baltic due to an immigration crisis that's being imposed on Lithuania and Poland, especially in light of the pandemic, which has displaced many people. How do you think the migration crisis should be handled? And is there something that the international community can do together to help address this challenge?
Mm-hmm. So let's go back to the roots. I will try to do it very shortly. But everything began with so-called elections in Belarus, which were followed by non-recognition statements from Western democracies, which were followed by sanctions imposed on regime. Then we had Svetlana Tikhanovskaya and many other activists running out of Belarus to be able to continue their operations and coordination of civil society. And then we had, just imagine, we had flight from Athens, Greece, flying to Vilnius. Then, I won't be commenting the ongoing investigation of ICAO, which is responsible for that. But somehow there was a terrorist threat, which led to forceful landing of a plane in Minsk. And after going back into air and landing in Vilnius, there were -5 passengers, if I remember correctly, including missing one of the activists who was on board of that plane, which led into new reactions and new sanctions, and which led into new mechanism. And we already have a significant number of intelligence and proof that all this process is orchestrated by Lukashenko regime. Because one day suddenly Belarus signs an agreement with third country. I won't be naming any of the countries to strengthen tourism. And flights from that state, becoming not 2 in a week, but 2 flights every day, flying into Minsk, and then collectively are brought to our border and pushed out of Belarus to become illegal migrants in Lithuania. Just some statistics. Usually in 1 year, we have up to 100 illegal migrants coming to Lithuania. During this summer, we've got, and now in Lithuania, we have more than 4,000 illegal migrants. 4,000 coming from countries which do not have winter as we or Canadians have. Was Lithuania prepared for such flow of migrants? Of course not. We never had such numbers. And you should understand that 4,000 people with objections from community, with tensions rising in communities where those camps are built, with and again, we are responsible for controlling the flow of illegal migrants, because like the easiest way, but also the most responsible one, would be just open our borders, and we know where those migrants would run. They would go to Germany or other more wealthy countries with existing policies, and would try to benefit from social systems of those countries. So our responsibility is to protect our borders. And what we're doing now, we are actually, because Belarus, especially if those countries flew into Belarus as tourists, shouldn't be considered as a country which poses threat to their lives, which they claim to have when they're entering, trying to enter Lithuania, Poland, or Latvia now. They're trying all the external borders. So therefore, Belarus being a safe place, there is no need for them to go to other safe country in order to survive. That's number one. Number two, what we're doing, we're clearly stating that on official border crossing points, you can apply for asylum in Lithuania. Yes, we are very strict. We are not accepting economical migrants. But if a person really faces a threat in his homeland, be it because of his religion, be it because of his political views, be it because of his sexual orientation, color or whatever kind of discrimination, he will be welcome to Lithuania. And example with Belarus civil society, which almost everybody who applies get asylum in Lithuania. The same with Afghani people who helped to our mission during our presence in Afghanistan, which were accepted with open hands to Lithuania. So it is a challenge. It is a challenge, and yes, we are building physical wall now with Belarus, because looks like regime has no morality and doesn't understand anything about the ethics, about danger they are putting human lives in, and it's a very sad story, and I really try to understand the situation of those people, but Lithuania has a clear right and obligation. First of all, to defend our own borders, our political, economical, and social system, and not to become, open gates where enters everybody who wants, does everybody anything what they think they want to do, then going to another country and living from the social systems created by citizens of our countries. There are people who want to try to compare the existing situation with what was happening during DP camps and the emigration from Europe, in the last century, when most of the Canadian population came to Canada. But this was different. This was totally different thing. Canada was inviting those people. Canada was putting clear conditioning. You had to work in railway construction, in farming, in forestry, in the worst possible conditions for 1, 2, or 3 years, and that was the way to enter into societal life here. It was not the same as it is now, when people from safe destination are just running and thinking that somebody must do something for them. Yes, there are many other things connected to human rights, and there are lots of women and children which we think are also used by the regime as a weapon, putting at least one woman with children into every bit of crowd trying to enter European Union. We're trying to find personalized solutions for that kind of vulnerable people, but Lithuania is proposing you can get financial support to fly back to your country of origin.
Thank you, Ambassador. And it looks like we are out of time. I'd like to thank you for all your wonderful responses and for taking the time to have this conversation with us. With that, I will hand it over to Robert.
Thank you, Nicole. And yes, Ambassador, what a great discussion. I really appreciate the way that you've touched security to almost every point that you were discussing. And if I could just ask one last question, what is it that you think Canadians should know about the Lithuanian experience that would help them understand why NATO is important to them?
If you wouldn't add word NATO, it would be easier to answer. But what I expect, as a takeout from this discussion, that our fight for freedom and democratic liberal world is not over.
Yes.
And only working in all the forests we created, or countries which has a longer history of independence created, be it United Nations, be it EU, NATO, and others. We have to use every and each as instruments to fight for freedom and democracies in our world.
Wonderful. Obviously, I can't contain myself, but yes, 100%. I agree, obviously. And thanks so much for participating in this discussion, Ambassador. And I would like to thank Nicole and Adwet for taking us through this elegant discussion.